Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Locker Room. I'm your host Brian Tull. Today's episode it's all about just the last summarizing the NBA Finals. It was a pretty good Finals. Wouldn't say it's the best I've ever seen. Love the '88 Lakers Pistons, but this here it's up there actually. I mean, the first game was fantastic. I think the ebb and flows of games 2 to 5 were fascinating from a basketball strategy standpoint. If you're a real basketball or a real hoops head, I think you enjoy it from that standpoint. And game 6 to 7, what can I say? Great game 6 with the drama and everything involved in it was epic. Game 7 was a great follow up. Who knew that would be the case? But it was fantastic. So I would say much respect to Spurs for a fantastic series with the Heat, and San Antonio showed their championship medal. They didn't give up on any loose ball. They didn't give up any sort of they didn't give Miami any sort of leeway at all. So I think it was really fantastic how the two teams fought. So here's my thoughts on what happened in Game 6 and Game 7. I'm not going to go through the whole series, but I think, let's face it, it gets down to those two games. Let's start with Game 6. Miami wins in overtime, I believe 103-100. Fantastic game. I mean, San Antonio really, I felt that was the first time in the entire series I saw San Antonio really, push the game, really kind of, punch Miami in the mouth, and really I didn't think Miami had a response for it. They really, took it to Miami. I felt that Miami looked lethargic for most of the game, especially that third quarter where they couldn't find any offense. But, once again, in game, in the fourth quarter, LeBron James doing his thing, showing why he's the best player in the game. Did his thing. It's interesting to see that Wade and Bosh were sitting on the bench while it was happening. That lineup that they had out there, which when you have LeBron, usually the one big is like Anderson or Haslam, and then the three shooters around them. That lineup, people seem surprised how well that lineup played in the fourth quarter. I wasn't surprised because during the season, that lineup was the lineup that would usually either blow games open or get them back into the games. And I recall a game, I think it was when they were kind of going through some of their struggles. They lost maybe 3 or 4 straight on the West Coast trip. I think the final game was in Utah. And they were getting beat pretty much like how they were getting beat by San Antonio, even probably a lot more thoroughly. I mean, Al Jefferson, Millsap, all those boys were having their way inside, just destroying Miami. Spurs pretty much benched them in the fourth quarter, somewhere in the early fourth quarter. And all of a sudden, you had LeBron out there with Ray Allen, very similar to this situation. I believe, it was Battier possibly. I think either Norris Cole or Chalmers was out there. And once again, this was before Birdman. Haslam was, I think, the big that was in there at the time. And they just went on a roll and got the game down to about 4, I think, with a few minutes left. Just bombing away and just pretty much high pick and roll action with LeBron, having the floor spaced out for him. And they just went to work. They were trapping and everything like that, just like how they were doing in the fourth quarter of Game 6. So, I mean, they showed their medal coming back, showing they too had the championship medal, and it was fantastic how they came back. So kudos to them. Overall, I thought Spoelstra almost, to be honest with you, they lost Game 6. I know everyone's saying, LeBron's mistakes and this and that, those last 2 plays. I personally would have thought that if they lost the game, I would really have put that squarely on the coach and squarely on Dwayne Wade. No more passes for Wade. He would have felt the full wrath as far as I'm concerned, because with less than 4 minutes left to go, they put Wade back in the game after they got in the lead, I think up to 4 or 5, I think. Might have been 3. I think it was 3 when he came back in the game. And they had the ball. I think that's what it was. Wade decides, after him sitting probably of 20 minutes of actual time and maybe 8 or 9 minutes of game time, he decides that, no, I think in this case with less than 10 seconds on the shot clock on this possession, post me up, even though I've been sitting dry as a bone for about 20 minutes. And then he goes ahead and flips up a shot. First thing, the part insulted me even more was LeBron's going like a maniac, and LeBron's with the ball in isolation on Kawhi Leonard, where he's been scoring throughout that whole run or making plays for others from that same spot. Wade comes in there, pretty much moves him out of there, waves him off to throw the ball in the post to him. I'm like, wow, you talking about an ego. I couldn't believe it. Flips up some type of dash-up shot that barely catches rim or something like that. And, up comes by San Antonio, boom, score. Next time down, I think it's either a possession or 2 later, Wade again, top of the key, just above the free throw line. He's doing iso ball again, playing hero ball. Dashes up an 18-footer, clanks off the side of the rim. Looking around, going like, what game has this dude been watching? Never mind that they're packing in the paint on the other, when he's in there. So LeBron's got no space. I really thought that move pretty much almost backfired on Spoelstra because from quickly as they had a 3-point lead, they're down 5, the famous 5 points, and like 28 or 29 seconds left to go in the game. So to me, I would have laid that straight there on Spoelstra and waited if they lost that series. I wouldn't be looking at LeBron with the 2 errors at the end because as far as I'm concerned, the game was lost at that point. But they found a way to come back. I mean, hustle plays left, right, and center from LeBron. Bosch was fantastic in the last 2 minutes and overtime. I know he takes a lot of grief, and we'll get to Game 7, in a moment. But hey, more props to the key rebounds, the key blocks by Bosch. He had some, other parts where he was doing some great pick and roll defense on Parker down in that game. Of course, one of them ended up with the block. Ray Allen, can't say anything more. I think one of the key things that San Antonio probably didn't realize was that when they had beaten Miami in Game 5, the quiet little thing that no one noticed during Game 5, maybe Bill Simmons is the only one that mentioned it, was that Ray Allen started warming up late in that Game 5, and the worst thing you could do is give a shooter a rhythm. And he found a rhythm in that game, and I think that helped carry over a lot into Game 6. So this is the reason why they always tell you play right through to the end of the game because you never know what might come back to haunt you, especially when you're playing a series like this. So those are some of the things I take aways in game 6. I'll just speak about Popovich because I can't let him get off the hook either. He's been getting off the hook way too long as far as I'm concerned in this series. I mean, the decisions he made in Game 6, it had to be some of the worst decisions I've ever seen a top flight coach make ever watching basketball. In some odd 20, 25, 30 years I've been watching basketball. I watched basketball since I was like 8 or 9. I had never seen anything like this in my life. I mean, how you're going to have your 2 best players sitting on the bench for that long, especially at their age, man. You're looking to win. You got, this is it. You can't wait around thinking like, I'll save them for a Game 7 if that's what you're thinking. Sometimes you got to roll the dice and you got to go what you get, what brung you. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that game was Tim Duncan's the win or lose. You got to give him the opportunity to say, you know what, big fella, you got anything left? If you do, I need you right now for the next 5 minutes, man. Just give me whatever you got left. And same goes with Parker. I mean, arguably the best point guard in the game. He's always up for an MVP possibility. You have him sitting on the bench. So I mean, the mistakes he made and to keep putting Ginobili out there, just a horror. I don't know what he was thinking with Ginobili still sitting out there. I mean, like just turning over the ball left, right, and center, and still having it out there in key moments where he had to make key decisions. They're just brutal coaching on that front. But let's get to Game 7. So Game 7 comes, and you're thinking San Antonio's folded up their tent and they're gone home. Your quote's like devastated by Ginobili. Duncan's just rubbing his head, can't believe what happened. I think the only person I thought, actually, funny enough, they would be ready to play Game 7 was going to be Parker. He seemed to take it in stride overall. He and Leonard doesn't say anything anyway, so you never know what he's feeling. But, it seemed like, those guys seem to be okay. I wasn't sure, but, I figured Duncan would come and play. I didn't think Duncan was going to just fold up, in a corner, curl up in a corner and call it a day. But he did seem to be really affected by the Game 6 loss. But Ginobili seemed to be the one that took it the hardest. But when you have 9 points and 8 turnovers, that probably will make you, shoulder some of the responsibility of what happened. But let's get to Game 7. Wow, what a game. It started off like most typical Game 7s, it was a bit sloppy, not a lot of great shooting, like a slugfest. You just felt that whatever team, especially Miami, who seemed to be kind of controlling the game, even though the game seemed to be like a 4-point game all the time, it seemed like they seemed to be controlling the pace and controlling the tempo throughout the game, but they couldn't find a way. Very similar to the whole series, actually, I thought. Couldn't find a way to get away from San Antonio. San Antonio never let them get out of arm's length in the game until it broke open really late. Probably with about 3 minutes left to go, it started kind of breaking open for Miami. I think in this case, this is where fatigue came in. I think it cost San Antonio, where Duncan and others are just starting to feel the fatigue. Ginobili, who hadn't had turnover all game, ends up with 3 huge ones in the fourth quarter. I mean, let me say this about Ginobili, okay? I mean, I know the Ginobili love affair with the dudes on ESPN and all the other guys that love Ginobili. Oh, he's so fun to watch. listen, Ginobili giveth and Ginobili taketh. And as far as I'm concerned with Ginobili, good player, above average player, but honestly, he's not a Hall of Famer in my mind. There's a great article I think that's on, I don't want, it's either Bleacher Report or SB Nation that breaks down if asking pretty much if Ginobili's a Hall of, pretty much asking if Ginobili overrated. They gave some great stats and great analytics comparing his numbers as a two guard versus some of the greats that are in the Hall of Fame. Not necessarily Jordan or Kobe, but even others that might be more likely, that might be like a second or third time, entry into the Hall of Fame, or others that might be on the cusp or something you don't even think of as being Hall of Famers. So even comparing to guys like Joe Johnson, who have actually better statistics than him, and no one's talking about Joe Johnson being in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I get the rings and the international experience, but just purely from the NBA career, sorry, I think he's an average of like 13 a game or something like that. Is an average of 14 a game in his career. Never had a season over 20 points. So, I mean, the love affair with Ginobili, let's end that right now, okay? It's like, he would be good. I mean, it better be a lot of his international experience because, I mean, if it's not that, I don't see him as a Hall of Famer at all. But he's done as far as I'm concerned. I don't think San Antonio could bring him back at all. He probably will retire after this series. I'll be shocked if he came back. But overall, I think San Antonio just around steam. Of course, it reflected most in the little bunny, that Duncan had with 50 seconds left to go in the game. Had a mismatch, came down, ran the court well, got a mismatch against Battier, blows the layup and then blows the little tip as well, which is like classic Duncan in this case, where he has he misses the little hook. He's so quick off his feet for the tip, and it's as good as in anyways. It was shocking he missed that. That would have made it 90-90. But really, I even at 90-90, there's no guarantee they would have won. But as far as I'm concerned, because I just did not see LeBron James losing that game. He was going to do anything he had to do, to win that game. And as the old saying goes, you live by the jump shot, you die by the jump shot. And in this case here, the Spurs live by playing the jump shot, and giving the jump shot, and they died by giving the jump shot. And I'm sorry, at some point during the game, you got to say to yourself, you know what? We played this defense pretty much for 6 games. It's been fairly successful for us, but tonight it's not happening. I mean, when LeBron James has a chance in the corner, pretty much take a shot as if he's in the 3-point competition. He has a chance to actually get less time in the 3-point competition. He had a chance to spin the ball, look at the commissioner's signature, and then flick it up for 3. I mean, in Game 7, you cannot give the best player in the world that much time and that much rhythm to do what he wants to do. So, I mean, once again, Popovich, I don't know what he was doing. Sometimes being stubborn sometimes could be a great thing. Sometimes, one way you can look at stubbornness in this case is very disciplined. Other times you can look at it just being flat old stubborn. And I think in this case he was just refusing to move from his philosophy and ended up biting him into you know what. And once again, decisions with substitution powers down the stretch. 27 seconds left to go. You have Parker sitting on the bench. I mean, I think in this case here, like he should be, you should be man enough to own up about it after the post game conference and say why you did what you did. For him to just give these gruff 1-word answers, as if he's above for being questioned, I think is just showing us a sense of the absolute arrogance in this case here. I mean, I can't imagine if any other coach did this, or never mind, a player did this. They'd be getting skewered everywhere on every cable channel and every article in the papers or online. I mean, for Popovich, you're starting to see a bit of a backlash happening where people are giving it to him. But for him to just kind of just give these 1-word answers as if he's like, hey, how dare you ask me these questions type of thing. You know what? That shtick is getting tired, dude. And you blew it. Pretty much you blew it for your team. You blew it in both games, but you really blew it in Game 6. If there's any GOAT in this series, and you hate to see a GOAT, but in this case, he's the GOAT. And then LeBron James did his thing. Wade finally showed up once again. It was good to see Wade decided to pick Game 7 again to show up. So that was good to give LeBron a little help. It's amazing only 5 guys scored for Miami ended up winning this game. That was an unbelievable stat. Of course, everyone's ridiculing Bosh for scoring 0 points. I will have to say about the Bosh situation is this. I'll be on the record. I like Bosh as a player. Obviously, he played for my team in my city for about 7 years, so I'm not going to be one of these guys like, oh, I hate Bosh because he left. I don't blame him, considering the nonsense that's in this city going on in this city when it comes to basketball. So, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But I'll say this with Bosh. I've always felt they've never used Bosh properly in their offensive sets, relying way too much on Wade and James. I think they could throw some more ball, a couple more possessions into Bosch throughout the year as well as throughout the playoffs. I mean, I think I looked at his stats for the first season with the big three. He's averaging 19 a game. Then last year, I think it was 18 a game. This year, it's 17 a game. And I think at some point, you got to say to yourself, James can't take this load for handling this load forever. Wade, obviously, with the injuries, definitely can't take on that type of load. Bosch is what? It's about the same age as LeBron, 28 or 29. I think he's still got pretty fresh legs, but but you're shortening his career, if you're going to continue to have him playing guys that are 20, 30 pounds heavier than him. So, I mean, he gets both short ends of the stick. On offense, he doesn't get as many shots. I'm not saying he expects to get the same shots as Wade or LeBron, but I think there's times where there's some sets where he has the advantage that they can really look for him a little bit more. And the second, and then part two of that is the places where they have him setting up is like uncomfortable spots on him on the floor for the most part. I mean, he shouldn't be out there shooting threes in the corner. I don't care how many he hits. But, I mean, Spoelstra has this offense set up for this spread flow offense, which is all fine and dandy. But, if you want to use Bosch effectively, to me, he's got to get closer to the hoop, at least from the elbow extenders where he likes to work. Unfortunately, that's the same place where LeBron likes to work as well, too. But I think there's ways that when LeBron's on the bench or Wade's on the bench that he can actually take advantage of those scenarios with the second unit. Also, same thing on defense. I mean, like, they got to find a big this year. I mean, having the dude there play 40 minutes on an island against Tim Duncan, one of the greatest players ever, arguably the best power forward ever played, and then saying, and then everybody expecting him to score 20, it's a bit much in this case here. I mean, I know he scored 0 points. I mean, I think at some point he pretty much said, I'm not forcing this offense. I'm riding with this. I'll move the ball around, I'll do all the small little things. He knew it wasn't there. He wasn't going to try to force it. But at the same time, I mean, to put the guy in a position where he's outclassed weight wise with a lot of the centers they play. I mean, he's playing Roy Hibbert. Like, give me a break. So in the offseason, Spoelstra, Riley have some work cut out for them. I assume they're keeping the big three. I don't buy all this nonsense. You hear all these guys on ESPN yapping about, you gotta move Bosch. Like, whatever. Bosch isn't going anywhere, folks. Okay, they're gonna play this out. Get yourself a big. I mean, you hear rumors about Greg Oden. I think if Oden's ready to play, that would be the perfect pickup. All the dude has to do is play about 10, 15 minutes a night just to relieve some of the pressure for Bosch at the start and maybe at the end of games. He's a talented enough dude that he could pick up a system pretty quickly, and he's a fantastic defender. So I mean, that to me would be the perfect complement to handle. To play with a Bosch. Then I think that would be great for the team, especially when you get a lot of deflections and block shots, and get Miami out and running. So we'll see what happens in the offseason. Anyways, it has been a great year, fun season. Sorry, you LeBron haters, you're going to take this for another season and enjoy it and learn to love it. Have a little pepper and salt while you're eating those words, and deal with it for another season. Because the King is on top of the mountaintop once again. So we'll see what happens in 2013, 2014. Great storylines coming up in the offseason. I mean, Kobe's rehabilitation, free agency with like Howard, Paul. You already see stuff going on with Doc Rivers at Boston. It's going to be a fun summer. And then you still have the draft coming up this week, on Thursday. So all sorts of things to get into next week. I'll get into some discussion. NHL playoffs, I finish out the Stanley Cup next week, and have my discussion. I'll be summarizing on that, as well as Wimbledon's going to be starting up this week as well too. So as I mentioned before, the NBA draft, all that next week. So everybody, stay safe once again. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll talk next week. Peace.